Welcome to the podcast, everybody. Super excited. This is our very first guest that we've ever had on the show.
I'm laughing because you're like yelling in the mic. That's how I know it's the first episode. You're like, it'll pick you up from where you're at.
You can, energy out there,
you can
right?
chill out.
I am really excited about this.
I love it.
First guest, first podcast. So this is a big deal, one of many. And I'm really excited to have Jimmy Rex on. I've known Jimmy since we were 12, dear friend. And it's intentional why Jimmy's here. Jimmy is a leader. He's a dreamer. Absolutely. He's a doer. I respect him so much. He's been a mentor, a friend. He's been my coach, actually, as well, in We Are the They for the last year and a half. Incredible program we're going to talk about. Huge career in so many different endeavors as an entrepreneur, business person, obviously very well known in real estate, 17 plus years, written a few books, traveled the world, over 105 countries now. And then moved into a passion project with We Are the They, which we're really going to talk about today. So at Hero, our company, our purpose, our mission is to create heroes who transform themselves, go on and transform the world. And you know firsthand what that's like with your book and the hero journey. And so Jimmy and I have always, you and I have always had this passion for entrepreneurship, personal development. We did a lot of the same stuff between grad programs and going to all the Tony Robbins things and all this stuff. So just always loved being around you, your energy, and you're always building, creating, and taking action. And so I love that. But one thing that I tell guys when they're looking at We Are the They and about you is you have a heart of gold. And you're probably the person I've met in my life that cares more about others than anybody. Like I've never met someone that cares more about people than you. Really, truly, like genuinely. So
thank you.
Yeah. So when I refer friends and like I was talking about Mike Potter about coming out, I like twist his arm. I'm like, bro, you need to be unleashed. Like you have so much talent. And Jimmy will help you do that. He'll help you tap into it. So I'm incredibly passionate about improving lives and specifically the lives of youth, like young adults, because there's just so much misdirection and distraction and problems at home and challenges with parents and a curriculum in schools that I don't agree with, and it's really bad. So I know you're really passionate about that. And so just want to take a minute if you want to tell us about Watt, and I definitely want to dive into next gen too and the focus on the
No, I owe you a lot, dude. You're one of the people that I was watching very closely. I remember I was trying to decide. I mean, I went down this path of self-development, self-improvement. And it wasn't that I was like consciously saying, I want to learn all these things. The truth is I was raised in a culture where you're told that you're supposed to get married as quickly as possible. And I couldn't figure it out. And it led me to trying to improve myself. I just was like, okay, well, clearly I'm the problem. Like everyone around me's figuring this out and I couldn't. And, I think I was just wired differently, and especially my purpose was different. It wasn't supposed to happen when it did. But inside it felt like if I can just fix what's wrong with me, then I can fix this piece of my puzzle that I haven't been able to do. And so it led me to all these conferences and events and read 500 books and did all these different things. And, one of the things I remember very distinctly when I was trying to decide if I was going to go to Fiji to go to Life and Wealth Mastery, which was a thing you'd been to, and talking to you on the phone, I was like, man, like I just love the passion that you spoke with. You have a very good way to take your experience and share it in a way that it inspires other people. Because I think a lot of people experience amazing things, but if you can't articulate that or teach that to other people, it kind of dies with you. And you do a really good job. It's why when you told me what you wanted to do with Hero, I was like, you're the perfect guy for this. Like you'll absolutely be able to translate that and flood it through your organization. And so, like the thing with Mike Potter, it's funny that you mentioned that. Because I sent him a text unbeknownst that you had told him that. And I'm like, bro, I was like, I got to be honest, man, a guy like you that gets in this program, it's scary what you're going to do. Like you will naturally become one of the leaders of the group. We just had our first call yesterday with group 4, the group he's in, and it's going to be really fun to watch where he goes with this. Because so many people, I used to get a lot of calls. Where do I find a life coach? Where do I, people that are hungry for it, there's a lot of noise out there and people don't even know where to go or what to find. And what I did with We Are the They is I simply just I've been on this journey for 10 years and I wasted a lot of time and money and effort on stuff that wasn't good, but I found a lot of stuff that was, and I just took all my best stuff and I put it into this program. I remember I took my best of my best stuff. I put it into week one, like the first trip we ever did. And I mean, I combined this magical moment I'd experienced with a friend of mine when we were cheering him on to boost him up and let him see who he was. In this lesson I learned from my friend Jen about being a badass. And then I took this lesson I got at Pelican Bay Prison with, Step to the Line. And I just took all these experiences and I put my own twist on all of it. And created what has become We Are the They. And I knew pretty quick we had something special when that first weekend together. It didn't take long before. And actually, I knew before that it was going to be special, though, because when you put your heart and soul into something, and I made a pretty drastic shift in my life. I'd been the number one realtor in Utah 4 years ago. Sold, a $32.5 million home, the most expensive home ever sold in Utah. I was at the peak of my career.
Yeah. And
by the way, building a real estate career like that, it's like a hockey stick, dude. You're like, feel like you're getting nowhere for 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And then all of a sudden it's the easiest thing in the world. You're making millions. And that's where I got to. I mean, I got to that peak where you try to get to forever. And I could have just rode that wave the rest of my life. But it was so strong, just like you. I had this epiphany. I knew I needed to do something more impactful. I knew I needed to leave a bigger mark, I guess you could say. This realtor that I was friends with had been shot and killed and collecting rent from a fourplex out in the ghetto. But he, all the news stations, everything was just talking about realtor this, realtor that. And I remember thinking like, if I die tomorrow, I mean, realtor's a great life. I loved it. And it was perfect for me when I did it. And I remember thinking, though, if I die tomorrow and that's all I'm known as a realtor, like I've really screwed this thing up. I'm so much more than that. I had so much information to give. And so I wanted to figure out a way to do it. And so, yeah, man, I left that career, basically turned it over to my real estate team that's still running today. And then I just went all in on this. And I didn't know if it was going to work or not. But that first day, I remember when we hit launch, I was nervous. I was hoping I'd get 12 to 15 guys on day one, and I was like, hey, I gave myself 30 days to sell the program because I knew I could call my friends and sell people and run ads and sell people. And, I'm pretty good on the phones. And within 8 hours, we had 147 applications for 50 spots. But what I was getting at is I knew it was special when I saw like your name come in. I'm like, holy shit, Cody's going to be a part of this. Oh my gosh. And then Brett Shell and some of these other guys that I knew were beasts in their world, in their field. And I was like, oh my gosh, we got something amazing here. And Steve Merrill, some of these guys that I just look up to myself, I'm like, oh my gosh. And I kind of got intimidated a little, like I better perform here. And then I had a month with nothing to do. Everyone's just kind of like twiddling their thumbs like, Jimmy, what's this thing? Like, why do we got to wait a month? But that's just the way that I planned it. And so anyway, yeah, man, it's been incredible. It's been the gift of my life has been able to do this. It's, somebody asked me yesterday, there's like, how do you have the energy for it? And I said, the truth is when you're working hard, if you don't love what you're doing, if you're not passionate about it, it's draining.
Yeah.
But if you're passionate about it, it just gives you more energy.
Absolutely.
Like it's so easy to do what I'm doing. I love it. Like there's hard days. Like we had one of the guys in the group, got kicked out of his company last week. Another guy had a problem with his wife. I got a dude sleeping at my house right now for a couple of days while he figures this shit out. And, hard things happen. Mm-hmm. And that's why it's so important. I've had to do this work on me because if I'm not dialed in internally, if I'm not taking care of me, if I don't have my morning routine dialed in, I can't really take care of anyone else. Yeah. It's kind of a testament to kind of the group too, you guys take care of each other. And so it's like, there's this extension that I could never do this if, I was trying to take care of everybody, but everyone just takes care of each other and it works, man. It's been really beautiful.
Yeah. And I can attest to that. I mean, I can attest to it's been life-changing for me. Hero as a company would not have existed actually without you creating what We Are the They and the connections I've made and what I've learned and who I've been able to connect with. And so that ripple effect, little droplet of water in a lake, it's for you is just massive. You can actually wrap this under the umbrella. It's so big. So I love it. I'm a huge fan, huge believer. And I love that you're building out the Next Gen program too. So tell us a little bit about that, this youth program.
Yeah, the funnest thing I've ever done in my whole life, still to this day, even more fun than We Are the They, is when I coached high school baseball. And I mean, dude, you lose money doing it. I think they paid the assistant coach $2,000. I was a volunteer assistant, but you don't do it for the money, you do it because you love it, right? Yeah. And I did it for 3 years and built some of the best relationships in my entire life. These friendships, guys, just, oh my gosh, some of the best humans I've ever met. And the thing I love about that age, and it's from about I'd say like 11 to like 28, 27 is they're so impressionable, and they want, those that want it really want it. Mm-hmm. We just got back from Lake Powell with group 3, and they're all in their 20s. It's Brandon's group, you know, with Empower Solar. Mm-hmm. And there's 50 dudes all in their early 20s, and dude, they're so hungry. Like group 2, oh my gosh, they're a bunch of clowns. Like when I get in a room, I'm just praying that they'll respect the speaker enough to shut up long enough. You got guys like Michael McKenna just walking around the room. He can't sit still for 12 damn seconds, you know. But they're so fun, but they just are a mess, you know. And they're I'm just wild, like man, praying that the speaker is going to be respected. Dude, group 3, I brought these speakers in down there, and I'm telling you, every single kid, they didn't make a sound. Every one of them's taking notes. They're just soaking up everything. And I'm just like, oh, this is so beautiful to watch. And I forgot what it's like when you're that age. You really are looking for mentors. You're looking for people that have been there, that can expedite your own growth. And that's what these kids are doing. And so with the Next Gen program, the same thing. I just kind of said, you know, I don't have kids yet, like, you know, but one thing I know is I do understand people, and I know how to create containers. I know how to, where people feel safe. I know how to create events where people are going to have the time of their life. And I know how to build friendships that go deep and that are true and that are honest and that last for a lifetime. And so I saw it work with these men, and it was like, oh, like, you know, the youth kind of need something like this. Mm-hmm. And, you know, so Ed Milet, actually, he's my one-on-one coach. And I met with him back in December last year, and he was the one that gave me the idea. He said, Jimmy, nobody's doing anything for the youth. Yeah, the youth need something. True. He's like, do this. And I was like, okay, like Ed tells you to do it, you know? Yeah. And so I set it up and, you know, found some amazing people to help me run it. And we've done, you know, our first event, and it was amazing, dude. They had the exact same breakthroughs, went just as deep. And these kids are dying to like be seen and to be understood. It's really fun for me. Like one of the things that a gift of my life, even though I don't have my own kids, I get a very good perspective, because I think you get a little bit too close to it when it's your kids. Yeah. So I've coached a lot of kids. I coached other youth teams, 14-year-old baseball team and some other stuff like that, where you get to like really see what these kids need. And, I have more friends come to me for parent advice than probably about anything. And I'm able to give them a view they're just not seeing. It's like, look, dude, I'll give you one example real quick. This is why when I started the Next Gen program, why I was confident to do it and why I knew it was going to be impactful. Because these parents that just don't know what they don't know. Yeah. They're just too close to it. So I have a buddy, he wanted his kid to go to an Ivy League school. He's like 14, dude. And he's like just harping on him all the time, about all this stuff. I just said one thing to him. I said, dude, I went to junior college, and he really looks up to me a lot and respects me for what I've been able to build and stuff. And I said, what if my dad needed me to go to Harvard and forced me to do it? What a tragedy to the world if I never got to be me. Yeah, like just exactly. Period. Yeah. And all of a sudden he's like, I said, dude, your kid just needs to be loved. Like, quit trying to tell him what to do. And he has this beautiful relationship with him. It's been about 3 years since that happened. But so with these Next Gen kids, I'm able to give them a view. So when we first got together, for example, I could tell, like with the men, it's awesome. They all want to be there. You guys have raised your hand and signed up for this thing. A lot of these kids, you could tell, were probably forced to be there. And I'm sitting there, the first meeting, got 20 something kids in the room. I could tell there's 5 or 6 just, what are we doing here? And I've been there. I was the kid that didn't want to do anything. My parents forced me to do all sorts of fun stuff. And I just said, you know what? No bullshit. And I don't even care. I said, guys, who's only here because their parents are making them? And I honest to God don't care. Like, just raise your hand. Like 6 of them raise their hand. It's cool. I said, here's the deal, guys. I said, you're going to be here for 3 days. You got 2 options. I said, I've been on a lot of dates in my life, okay? I've only had a handful not go well. And the ones that didn't go well, for whatever reason, this girl agreed to a date, but by the time I picked her up, she had just decided she was not going to have a good time. And I can't do anything about that person. They've made up their mind. I said, some of you look like you've made up your mind. I said, you got 2 options. You can do that and you're going to be miserable for 3 days because we're going to still work your ass off. I said, or 2, you can just go, you know what? I'm going to have the best time I can. I'm going to commit to doing what they asked me to do. And I will give you a promise that you'll be sad when it's time to leave. I said, deal? They're all like, deal. Cool. And dude, it was so fun to watch them come together. And so that program hopefully will grow. It's different. It's not a money thing. It's a passion project. It's funny. Like parents will pay for themselves all day, but it comes time to pay for their kids. They're like, my kid's not that important. I was a little surprised we didn't get more signups, if I'm being honest. Maybe they're just like, we trust you with us, Jimmy. We don't trust you with our kids. Fair.
Next gen's what, 13 to 18?
It's 13 to 17.
13 to 17.
Yeah.
Boys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We are still looking at the option of opening up one for girls as well. We finally figured out with the women's program, giving them their own group is what they wanted. We just barely launched out last week and they're all excited. It filled up. And so we're just learning, man. And that's one of the fun things about this is like, shit, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just trying to figure it all out. I'm just leaning into what feels right. I've adjusted this program 50 different times since we started and we'll continue to do so, just whatever feels right.
Yeah. The other day on our leadership call, you had brought up how the number one question that you get, even from adult men, is like, what should I do next? I don't know what to do. I'm trying to figure this out.
It is.
So the purpose of Hero and even Next Gen and stuff, Hero, we're really focused on young adults. Our average age of team members at the company is probably 22 or 23, just like the guys at Brandon's company.
Yeah, great.
They're like sponges. They're ready to listen and learn. So it made me think of this quote: the meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away. And I think that's what people struggle with, or they have a really hard time finding out, like, what is my gift? What is my talent? What am I good at? And how do I figure that out? What do you think is, some of the ways that youth can explore that early on? So maybe they're building that muscle and later they're not coming with that.
Yeah. I think we can't forget about patience and all this, man. It just takes time to figure that stuff out. I mean, nobody worked harder on it than I did, and it still took me 40 years to figure that out. But I think it just takes time, dude. Like, be obsessed with figuring it out, like work on it all the time. I mean, We Are the They did not just come to me. That thing started as one thing and it looked like a completely different thing 2 years later by the time I actually was done figuring out what it was going to be. And I think that the thing that I could say is be very intentional with your life. Yeah. Just be intentional. Like, know why you're doing things. Know why you're hanging out with people if you are. Know why you're dating somebody if you are. Know why you're going somewhere if you go. Like, know why you're doing what you're doing. Like, don't just drift with whatever happens. Most people end up becoming best friends with who lives next to them. Like, that's stupid. I go find the people that inspire me and I go find a way to be in their world,
Yeah.
Most guys marry the first or second girl that likes them back. That's cute. I mean, just being honest. Like, most people are just not that intentional with their lives. And so they end up with a very mediocre life. And I think when it comes to meaning and purpose, I think just trying to figure out what that is. Like for me, I mean, just to give you an idea of how this led to We Are the They, or even coaching high school baseball, which led into me wanting to coach men. I started out, I said, I just want to give back. So how do I do that? So I went and signed up for the Big Brother, Big Sister program. I hated it.
Yeah.
I hated it. It was one kid, he didn't like sports. I'm like, you can only go to the nickel kid so many times before you start feeling like you're wasting your time. You know what I mean? So I quit doing it because I was like, you know what? Sorry, kid, you're going to get abandoned again. But no, I'm just kidding. Like, he had a mom and a dad. But like, my point is sometimes you got to know, like, okay, that's not my thing. And then I went and I started volunteering for the Center for Women and Children in Crisis. And I hated it. Like, I had 180 women come through the door that had been beaten or whatever. Dude, 180 of them went back to their abuser. And I just realized, wow, I'm not qualified to help these people. I have no idea what to do here. And so I quit. I hated it. Then I started coaching high school baseball. I said, oh my gosh, okay, I love this. Yeah. But I also was aware that it was draining my bank account because I wasn't able to do anything with real estate. So I said, I need to get myself in a financial position where I can just do this. I was planning to just coach high school baseball. That was probably what I was going to do if, the nickel of money I'd made hadn't tanked. I would have never even thought of We Are the They. So that's why that whole thing's a gift. But at one point I thought I did have in my bank account $30 million, but it was tied up in stock. By the time I could sell it, I couldn't even buy a new house. My point is I got to go through this exercise during that time of like, okay, well, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? And I wanted to coach. That's what I wanted to do. And, I thought I was going to be coaching high school baseball. But that led me to explore other avenues of coaching. I knew I didn't want to coach real estate agents anymore. I didn't think I was qualified to coach humans on life, if I'm being honest. I said, who the hell am I? And I was refusing to do it. I wasn't being called to do it. It just didn't feel right. I'm like, because I was thinking it was going to be like, just a room full of random people. And that's what I was like, I'm not qualified for that. Who am I? And then in a meditation that came to me very clearly, it said, Jimmy, what are you the best in the world at? And if I'm being honest, the thing that I know I do better than anyone else is I help men connect on a deep level. My friends all met through me because of these experiences, these containers that I set up, whether it was a trip, a party, an event, a meeting at my house, a lunch, renting out the jazz suite. I always knew how to connect men, and I watched them all become best friends. You talk to any of my closest friends, they all met through me.
Yep.
And I just knew I had that gift. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's been at the expense of my romantic relationships or any familiar relationships, but I do know how to create the best friendships. And so it was like an instant light bulb went off, dude. I was like, holy shit, that's what I've been called to do. I am the guy. I'm the best friend. I know how to do this. And I went from feeling like a total imposter on coaching to I could not have been more excited. And I just leaned into that. I was like, it's a men's group. I'm going to teach these guys. That's what people reach out to me for on Instagram. I was getting message after message after message from guys going, dude, you guys look like you're having so much fun. Where do you even find friends like that? Where do I find a group of friends like you have? And all of a sudden I was like, I'll just create them. And the coolest part, I put a thing up.
It's passion.
Oh, dude, I put a thing up yesterday about Instagram. Well, it's so fun. It's so easy to make content for me. It's what I do. Yeah. It's just my life.
Yeah, exactly.
I literally just have to have a camera. Like it's every day I'm already doing this. And so I just film my life. But it was funny. I literally put a post up yesterday about friendships and how, over a quarter of the men in the world or in the US feel like they don't have a single best friend. And somebody wrote on there, it's impossible to meet friends as an adult. You have to have tragedy and trauma. And I'm like laughing. I was like, hopefully somebody from the group will see this, which they did. They took care of it for me. But like 10 different dudes are like, I've met my best friends of my entire life within the last 8, 9, 10 months, with this group. And it is, dude, like every single day these guys are hanging out. They're going, and this is my gift. And so I found it by being very active. And I think this is what I'm trying to get at. There's two things, Cody, that the most successful people do that I've noticed. Because of my podcast, I'm able to be around a lot of the most successful people that ever live.
Absolutely.
I just did a podcast with Jerry West. And I mean, you name it, like some of the best to ever do it, whatever they do. And they all have the same two things in action. Number one, they're very intentional about what they're trying to do, what I just went over. And then the second one is they just take action. They take imperfect action, bro. Like when I started, that's why I'm so glad you're doing this podcast. I was laughing my ass off because you're yelling into the mic when we start this thing up. You don't know what the hell you're doing yet. You don't have a flipping name for this podcast, bro. And you're doing it. That's so amazing. That's so freaking cool to me.
Let's go.
That's the thing though. Like you don't have to know what you're doing yet. You're doing it. It'll figure out a name. Who gives a shit what his name? Dude, I had a realtor one time. He's like 3 weeks in and he comes into my office. He's like, dude, and I was pretty strict about not wasting my time. And he's like, I know you don't like being bugged, but I got something really important. Will you help me with this, please? I'm like, all right, what is it? He's like, okay, come here. This homie had spent like 2 days designing 6 different logos of what he was going to call his real estate business. And he had them all laid out. He's like, which one would you go with? I look at him like, you got to be kidding me. I was like, you don't have a single lead. You don't have a single deal you've ever done. I go, you know what my logo is? It's the Jimmy Rex team. It's like in a normal lettering. I said, I've sold 800 houses right now. You've sold 0, bro. I go, I didn't even think about a logo till I'd sold 600 houses. I just grabbed them. I crumbled them up. I said, I just did you a big favor. My point is like, people will get so creative to avoid doing the hard thing, doing the work.
Yeah.
You could have sat and pondered on this name for another 3 weeks, dude. Yeah. You could have, I got to make my list of questions for Jimmy. Like, that wasn't where this interview was going to get a whole page of notes. We're not going to get to any of it. It doesn't matter, dude. We're just here jamming, having a good time. It's because you took action. And that's what the successful people do. They just go for it. They don't have to have, like, you guys go knock doors. Dude, the first time I ever knocked doors for Vivint, you know what I did? I went on a blitz to Colorado. I'd sold all 3 of the main dudes a house. Or you got to come with us on this blitz. It was like January, dude. We go to Timbuktu, Colorado from like hours from the airport. Bro, it was 0 degrees. It was so cold. And I'm get out there. I don't even know what their products are. I don't even know what I'm selling. I just start knocking doors. And I get a couple of people interested and I'm like, they're like, what is, I'm like, I have no idea. I have no idea what I'm selling. I'm just pointing to shit. And I'm like on the phone. I'm like, yeah, I think I got one. You guys better get over here because I don't know what I'm doing. I end up selling 3 in 2 days, nice. Which is pretty damn good. Yeah. I think I was number 1 out of the group out there that weekend. And the point of it was I literally didn't even know what the product was. I just was like, I'm just going to go try to do it. And so I could give you 100 examples, but dude, take action and be very intentional about what you're doing.
Those are huge takeaways. I love that. Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things I notice just with our youth is I see a lot of people giving up early, like quitting, stopping when things get hard. And so I think this idea of resilience, that, developing resilience, having resilience, knowing that it takes, there's nothing overnight. You're not going to get rich quick overnight. And the challenge is with our society, everything's fast. It's 6 seconds or less. It's quick. It's dopamine hits constantly. And they haven't, learned that the struggle and the hardest things in life are what shape you, build your character, and it's what builds resilience. So what is one of the hardest things you had to overcome maybe in your late teens, early 20s? And it was really hard for you. Help build that resilience, and how can young adults maybe capture a mindset of understanding resilience is important.
Yeah, my heart goes out to the younger generation, because when we were younger, what was the story? Dude, you can retire by 60.
Yeah.
So it gave us this runway of like, okay, I've got 40 years to figure this out. So you just knew I got to go till 60. Nowadays, what's the message they get? They know people. Every high school has one person that's made it on TikTok or Snapchat or something that's making 10 grand plus a month on YouTube.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, they're like, holy shit, that's the path. And so everything looks like you can get it quick, right? It's that one person, but it's not reality. And so they're kind of just been given a lot of bad data. I think that they have a lot of bad examples. I think that society props up the people that make it quick.
Yeah.
The athletes, musicians, YouTubers. It's people that are like, dude, when you realize how many people are trying to do YouTube versus how many have made it, it's like 1 in a million. It's worse odds than being a star in the NBA.
Yeah.
But it looks so achievable because it looks like I could do that. Like, I don't watch an NBA game and think I could do that. I watch a YouTube kid and I was like, damn, if I had YouTube when I was their age, I would have been a star, and I probably would have been. But my point is like, it looks so achievable. And so unfortunately the kids have been sold this. So they go out to do a real job and they just can't hack it. Right. And I don't know what the answer is. I think number one is we have to start changing the dialogue around what it looks like to be successful. Patience is such a key to this whole thing, right? Like, dude, I was 31 when I finally got back to zero and had all my debt paid off and had all my bad decisions were accounted for. Your assistant's phone keeps going off, by the way. This podcast is amazing. Well, turn it on silent for hell's sakes. Act like you've been here before, camera guy.
It must be important.
Feels like that's not on Do Not Disturb. You got to leave this in the podcast, by the way. Just see, it doesn't matter. Nobody cares. Did anybody just turn off the podcast because the phone keeps going off? No, my camera guy's on it, right? Nobody cares.
Exactly.
See, it's just imperfect action. Yeah. It's great. You're fired. Just kidding. Anyway, long story short, but so I think the most important thing for resilience, it's not about resilience, it's about understanding that you want something more. I think what you have to do is teach these kids or help these kids see what it looks like to have a great life. Like, too many kids are just okay with what life is now. Like, if you had a hard life 40 years ago, you did not want that hard life. That was a hard damn life.
Yeah.
Nowadays, a hard life really isn't that hard. Mm-hmm. You just sit around and don't do much.
Yeah. And
so I think that's part of it. And I think like maybe tougher times got to come for people to realize what that is again. Thank God we don't have that hard at times. But at the end of the day, it's really easy to half-ass it these days. You know, when the real estate market collapsed, 80% of the agents got out of the business, right? So I'm talking about resilience. Jimmy, how'd you keep going? People ask me that all the time. And honestly, my answer was, I don't know. What was the alternative? To be a loser? You know, like, it never occurred to me that I shouldn't keep going. That's what you did. Like, It never once came into my mind, like, you don't have to do this. It was like, hey, keep going. Like, so I don't even understand the mind of somebody that goes there, that they're like so easily gives up. But like, I had big dreams. I knew my life was going to have meaning. I had a quote on my wall next to my phone where I made my prospecting calls that said, show up today for your future self. Yeah, you never know who's going to need you. Like, dude, like, I just found ways to motivate myself, you know? And so I think ultimately it's about figuring out what you want your life to be. Do you want to be exceptional? And here's something I need to say, like, having an exceptional life is not for everybody. It really isn't. Like, people want the part of Kobe Bryant's life when he won the 5 championships and had supermodels running him down and got to win an Oscar and all those things. They don't want the Kobe Bryant that woke up at 4 o'clock every day because he was hell-bent on putting 2 extra hours in over his teammates because he didn't want to be the same as them. Like, nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody wants that part of Kobe. Yeah. You have to take the whole package. So if you want these amazing things in your life, if you truly want to have an incredible life, You got to take the shit that comes with it.
Yeah.
And if you're not willing to take the shit that comes with it, don't expect to have a great life. I'm not even saying you, like, honestly, for a lot of people, probably shouldn't have an exceptional life. Just be satisfied, I guess, then with what you have. If you're fulfilled, if you're getting, you know, I don't think you are, if you're not growing and contributing. But at the end of the day, it's just excellence isn't for everybody.
Yeah. That comment about Kobe made me think about a video I saw the other day of Usain Bolt. He said, you know, I trained for 4 years every day for 9 seconds of my life. 4 years of sacrifice for 9 seconds.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what people don't want to do. They don't want to do that work.
Yeah.
So earlier you made a comment about parents, right? Like parents don't know what they don't know. I think one of the major problems in our society is, in my opinion, at least the curriculum in high school, I think it's a joke. They're not teaching about self-love, habits. They're not teaching about mental health, emotional health, you know, self-love, vision, goals.
Yeah, like all the stuff you need to know for life.
All the stuff. No one's teaching it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and parents don't know what they
By the way, that's what we have our whole program about for these next gen kids. It's all the stuff, basically the whole curriculum is stuff you're not getting in high school.
Yeah. And some parents, you know, bless their heart, they're great, but and they don't know what they don't know. They're genuinely, you know, good people doing their best. But what do you see as the big disconnect at scale, at large, in the United States? Like the big disconnect between parents and kids.
Between parents and kids?
Yeah. And I guess to add on top of that, what can the people that are aware, that are conscious, right?
Yeah, I mean,
that are intentional, what can those leaders do to show up for our youth?
I think it's really hard to be a great parent. I think it takes a lot of effort. I don't think most people are willing. It's just like being excellent in any other area of your life. Like, dude, if you want to be an excellent parent, it's a lot of time. I think most parents just turn it over to the system. Here, take my kid and do what you can with him. Like, to actually pull your kid aside and teach him all these things and make sure they're following up on these things, it's a lot of work, dude. Most parents just put their kids in front of a video console or put them in school and call it good. And God bless them. Like, it's too hard, the alternative for them. So I think the disconnect is just parents, honestly, like you get out of your kids what you put into them, just like you get out of work what you put in, just like you get out of the gym what you put in, just like you get out of your eating habits, like your love life, like all these things. Life isn't an accident. You know, if you want your kid to be a better kid, it takes a lot of effort and time. And honestly, I think one of the reasons why I've waited this long to have a family is I never wanted to half-ass it. I had too many things I wanted to accomplish for it. Call me selfish, but I think it's like the greatest gift that I've been able to give is not having a family yet, because ultimately by the time I do want to have one, but I'm not like dying to have one still, but by the time I do, I'm going to be a hell of a dad. I will never be a half-assed dad. Like, I will not have a disconnect between how much time and attention my kid's getting, because, you know, and by the way, God bless these parents. They're trying to put food on the table. They're trying to take care of their own shit. Like, when you're a kid, you assume everyone has their shit figured out. It's just not the case. Right. Most parents are hanging on. Most school teachers are not happy. Most cops are not that good at what they do. Like, most people they're just not great at like life in general in a lot of ways. And we assume they are because they're in these positions that are authoritative or over us. But like, looking back, to God bless them. Like, it's easy for me to sit here and criticize a parent for not putting more into their kid, but shit, I ain't dealing with real world problems. I ain't dealing with what they have to go through, the emotional side of it. And a lot of them, by the way, and I learned this with my dad. I had a beautiful sit down with him a couple months ago. My dad never lacked time with us. He never lacked love. Dude, my dad had a skills problem. My dad did not know the skill of holding space. My dad did not know the skill of listening. I had a beautiful 8-hour conversation with him about 4 or 5 months ago. And he just didn't have the skills. And I was teaching him how to listen, how to hold space, how to have empathy. He just didn't know how to do it. He'd never had someone teach him. And so a lot of parents, God bless them, they don't even know how to do it. So there's a skills issue on just how to be a great parent. Like, I mean, sorry, but anybody can qualify. You just get someone pregnant and you're a parent. Like, there's not like a test you have to pass of how to be a good parent, right? It all goes back to communication. You want to be great in your marriage? It's not, divorces aren't 50% because marriage sucks. Divorces are 50% because people don't know how to communicate.
Yep, for sure.
And people don't have a disconnect with their kids because their kids suck. They have a communication problem. They don't know how to talk to their kids. They don't know how to do those things, right? Mm-hmm. Same thing with friendship. It's really easy to be a good friend. You just learn how to talk and listen. You just learn how to show up. You just learn how to hold space for somebody, you know? Yeah. I got a buddy right now going through hell, and came over and we were chatting and he's pouring his heart out to me. And instead of trying to, all I said was, bro, I'm just here for you. Whatever you need. I don't have any good answers, but just know that I'm here. And then I've checked on him 10 days in a row. Like, that dude knows. And even like day 4, he's like, you're a real one, man. You actually care. like, yeah, this isn't lip service out here.
Right, back to my first comment when we started. Yeah, absolutely.
But that's what it looks like. And so like parenting is the same thing. Relationships are the same thing. Your work is the same thing. Like life is this simple in any area. Okay. It's not easy, but it's this simple. You figure out what to do. So that takes a lot of time and effort sometimes. Yeah. Like if you want to be a great husband, go read John Gottman's books about marriage. Go study this stuff. Like it's out there. There's really good information. Yes. Yeah. So number one is find out what to do. Number two is get really good at doing it. So this is where practicing, role playing, experiencing it, doing it over and over and over and over. It's why my program's not a year, it's 2.5, because we're still, I mean, a lot of things come up after year one, you know. You get really good at doing it. By the way, this is how I got great at real estate. I just figured out what to do, what to say, figured out the best way to say it. And then the third one is you just do it all the time. Like if you know how to be a good communicator, then you just do that all the time. Same thing with whatever it is. Like if it's your job, like if your job's to knock doors every day, if I was going to go join your company, do you have any doubt I wouldn't be your number one guy within a month?
You'd be great.
100%. I would be your number one guy. And I know you can't say that because the reason why is because I'd find out exactly what to say. I'd get so damn good at saying it, and then nobody would outwork me. I'd say it all day. So I'd be the best one at saying it, and I'd have the best things to say, and then nobody would work harder than me. I would just naturally, that's a scientific formula to have massive success. In any area of life. That's all you have to do. If you suck at your job, get better at it. Like you want to know the number one way to enjoy your job? I talked about this on our call the other day. Get great at it. Nobody that's great at their job really hates it. If you're the best in your industry, you don't hate your job. You might not love it, but you don't hate it. And so like, if I was a salesperson, dude, it's one of the reasons why like I just never could half-ass anything. I was like, if I'm going to do it, I want to be the best at it. And so if you're like middle of the road salesperson, you're listening to this podcast, you're the lower end of the road, you have a skills problem or you have a work ethic problem. Figure it out. Which one is it? If it's a skills problem, go figure out what you don't know. Go find the best guy in the company, shadow his ass, find out what to do. When I was selling solar with Vivint Solar back in 2014, dude, I was like, I'm not the best at this. I found out who the top 30 dudes were. I went and spent a day with every single one of them and watched their pitches. Every single one of the top guys. I just went and shouted them all. Yeah. I ended up selling like 20 of them a house later on too, because I got to build a connection. But my point was, I was like, I need to know how to be the best at this. And I learned so much by doing that because I wanted to be the best.
Dude, that's so good. That's gold right there. It's super valuable. You said something about your dad earlier. That
just didn't have the skills.
Yeah. And I remember you saying that you wanted to, and I'm probably going to mess this up a little bit, but you wanted to create a program that your dad needed.
Yeah. Like when I was, when I was forming my dad, dude, 95% of the time, he really was like the best, dude. Yeah. I love my dad. But that 5% was really bad.
Yeah.
And when I had that long conversation with my dad, like, he started telling me some really, vulnerable things. And I asked him, I said, Dad, when's the last time you talked about any of this? I mean, he talked about when his dad died, he never had any, he never talked about it. He had some problems with his family, never talked about it. Had some problems with his marriage with my mom. They never talked about it. Like you think your parents have this beautiful love story, it just wasn't, they got married for probably the wrong reasons and different things. And they just didn't have this beautiful story. I'm like, Dad, have you ever talked to him about any of this? He's not like this. And what I realized is like, oh man, if my dad had a place like we have, I mean, is there anything you're not safe to talk about in We Are the They?
Oh no,
nothing. I mean, you can talk about everything, and you do. And not only are you safe to, but we create the place where you're going to.
Yeah.
And so by being able to express those things and talk about them and feel loved in that state, to feel seen by your peers and still accepted, like that's what my dad needed. Like I can only imagine how much different or better my youth would have been if my dad had been able to work through some of his traumas. And so what I talk about with We Are the They is like, yeah, dude, this is the program my dad needed. I just set up a program that would have changed my life had my dad found it. And so when I was picking the 50 guys out of those 147 that applied, I went and looked at everybody's Instagram and everybody's Facebook, and I looked at the kids, dude. I really did. I just looked at all the kids because that's who I was going to affect. I was like, I know if I do this right, dude, it was so motivating to me. Yeah, it's like, if I can do this right, if I can do what I think I can with this program, every one of these kids' lives are going to be different. Oh, yeah. And I was like, that was so exciting to me to be able to be the person I needed when I was little,
Yeah, that's major impact. That's generational. That's grandkids and great grandkids. If you can help change just small, teeny paradigm shift, just mindset shifts and change the life. And that's definitely what you're doing in We Are the They with the group. So one last question for you, man. And just such a great time with you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, dude. No, it's fun. I could talk to you all day.
I can talk to you for hours, but if if you could go back and give your 20-year-old self advice, just one piece of advice, actually makes me think about the question Dan Clark said the other day for our TED Talks that are coming up at our next Ludus. You know, if you were to drive 5 hours, I think he said 5 hours, you know, one way just to share something. But imagine
what would you drive 5 hours to speak about for free?
Yeah, to speak about for free. Yeah. What would you go back and tell your 20-year-old self?
You know, I think more than anything, dude, I heard something the other day, and it's been in my head every day since. Been thinking about this. Do you know the name of your great-great-grandpa? Probably not. You'd be the first person I've asked that did if you did. I'm just saying. Do you know the name of your great-grandpa?
Eugene.
Okay, fair enough. Maybe you've done a lot of family history. My point is when was the last time you thought of that guy? Never. 10 years?
Yeah.
You're not thinking about this.
It could be wrong. It might not be Eugene.
Exactly.
My great-grandpa's Chloe.
See, my point is you don't even know.
Yeah, it's true.
Dude, we are forgotten so quickly in this lifetime. Yeah. And I had a dude, I was on a call yesterday. His kid just got home from his LDS mission, and he reached out to me on Instagram. He goes, "Can I please talk to you? I need some direction in my life. I think you're my guy." So I call him up, just trying to help this kid. And he starts talking. His dad's very successful. He said, "I feel like everybody's watching me to see what I do next. And so it's a lot of pressure." I said, "Dude, let me tell you a little secret. You're not that important. Nobody's watching you." I said, "I used to feel the same way, dude. I thought every eyeball was on me. And then you start doing some shit and you realize, no, everyone's worried about themselves. Everybody has their own life to live. Like, people might want to celebrate you, but they're on to their next thing. 90% of people that go to a funeral go to their next appointment afterwards, dude. Within a week, maybe 1% of the people that went to your funeral will still give a shit. I'm just being honest. Like, you're just not that important. And nobody's watching you. And your life is yours. And so the one thing I would tell my 20-year-old self is do whatever you want to do. Don't worry about other people. We spend money to impress people we don't like, and then we get stuck with this shit. And then we make decisions based on other people's outcomes. That's all it is them freaking putting their own fears out there and projecting the only insecurities that they have. And they think that they're giving us advice. But what it really is them just projecting their own bullshit. And so I just told him, I said, "Dude, do what's good for you. What do you want? Don't listen to anyone else." I said, "You won't even, in 2 generations, nobody gives a shit. Nobody will even know your name, let alone what you did, let alone your decisions. 2 generations. It's not even that far." That's what I'd tell my 20-year-old self.
I love that. I wish I would have got that advice at 20.
Same.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I'd tell him, don't ever sell any of your real estate.
Hold it. Just hold it.
Just hold it all. Yeah. Sold a lot of houses I should have kept.
Yeah. Brother, thank you so much.
I love you, brother. Thanks for having me on.
Man. Thank you so much. Really pleasure.
Yeah.